They say money can solve almost any problem. But what if that problem is a full-blown zombie apocalypse? How far could your cash actually take you when the world's falling apart? In today's video, we're putting it to the test, starting at just $1 and going all the way up to $10 million to see what kind of gear, shelter, and survival tools you can buy to boost your chances. So let's go apocalyptic shopping. Now, surviving the literal collapse of humanity is already a challenging task, but with $1, it just got a lot more difficult. Weapons like machetes, axes, hammers, and more are all above the $1 price point and therefore unattainable. In fact, the only weapon-like items I could even think of were a crappy $1 pair of scissors from a Dollar Tree or a plastic knife. If you were really desperate, you could try using a pen, but don't expect that to help you any better. Either way, $1 isn't enough for a good weapon, so that's why I chose a $1 piece of pizza. I mean, if death is inevitable, might as well go down eating one of the most delicious foods on planet Earth. And to those wondering, yes, $1 pizza does still exist, it's just in New York City, which might be the last place you want to be during a zombie apocalypse. Which actually leads to my awful joke of, what do zombie survival and real estate have in common? Location, location, location. You see, your chances of surviving a zombie apocalypse depend heavily on where you are during the outbreak. If you're in a major city like Boston, Los Angeles, or New York City, the chances of you escaping are close to zero. There are just too many people who could become infected and make your life miserable. However, if you're in a remote location with fewer people and less access to major cities, there's a chance it takes days or even weeks before the virus reaches you, giving you time to prepare. So, while that $1 won't let you purchase anything worthwhile, you'll have time to either steal some supplies or partner with other survivors to maximize your chance of survival. Moving up to $100, we have a budget we can actually survive with. The first thing we need for our survival is a weapon, and luckily we can buy a nice machete for $40. This large, sharp blade is going to be essential in cutting down infected and any other hostiles we encounter. The next thing we have to tackle is food. Using some of the remaining $60, we can buy canned food and bottled water to sustain us for a short time. Spending around $20 minimum makes sense to ensure we have something to sustain ourselves without being forced into high-risk situations because we have no other options. Desperation can put survivors in bad spots, forcing them to take on challenges that present little to no chance of success just because they didn't pack right. Now, spending the remaining $40, we could invest in some clothing. If the zombie apocalypse we are in is a very stereotypical one, with the virus being spread via saliva, we could buy some clothes or gear that reduces the risk of biting. It could be something as simple as a heavy jacket or pants, or possibly turning to sports equipment like hockey gloves and shin guards to keep our limbs safe from becoming zombie snacks. Because when you're using a weapon like a machete, you have to get up close and personal, meaning there's always a chance you can get bitten. So, heavy clothing, gloves, and other items that I mentioned could be key to preventing any stray bites. And if that option doesn't interest you, you're more than welcome to spend the remaining money on more food, flashlights, or whatever other items you feel give you the best chance of surviving. Now, spending $1,000 gives us a lot more room to work with. The first and most important item to purchase is a handgun. Here in the United States, a handgun can cost you around $500. That handgun is going to be worth the cost, as it allows you to deal with the undead from a distance and significantly reduces the chance of death in combat. A handgun also enables you to engage in ranged fights with other humans who may be trying to steal your stuff, feed you to the zombies, or worse. What you also need when you have a handgun is ammo, which is why we're going to stock up on it, purchasing around $200 worth of ammo. Why so much? Well, when the world falls apart, everyone is going to have the same idea and rob any location where they can get ammo. So, buying a ton of ammo before it becomes a rare commodity is crucial. The next item we'll need is a backpack. In most zombie-related media, when the world falls apart, the last thing you want to do is stay where you are. It's smart to search for more resources while also looking for more rural and remote areas. A backpack allows you to live on the go, but it's looking a bit empty. So, let's pack some items to fill it. My first choice has to be a standard first aid kit, which can run you around $60. Clearly, zombie bites are the primary injury we're trying to avoid, but there are a lot of other nasty bacteria and infections out there that survivors can encounter that puts lives at risk. Next up, we're gonna get this funky looking thing called a life straw. Before researching this video, I had no idea what this was, but now it's on my list of survival must-haves. Let me introduce you to the life straw. A life straw is a portable water filter that lets you safely drink from almost any water source. It removes bacteria, parasites, and microplastics, with no chemicals, batteries, or pumping needed. You just sip through it like a regular straw, and it cleans the water as you drink. In a post-apocalyptic world where clean running water isn't going to be an easy find, a small tool like this could be a bit of a lifesaver for survivors. Some other options for the backpack could be a camping cook set at around $100, a helpful aid to cooking on the move, a rechargeable flashlight to see at night, which could run you $25, or you could take some high-quality working gloves to help you brave everyday survivor annoyances, which could run you up to $30. You could substitute these items for others, it depends on what you want. The point is that once you handle a significant detail, like a weapon, it's just as essential to ensure that the smaller details like light, food, and safety are also handled with planning and caution. This is especially tough when you're working with a $1,000 budget, which is why we're moving up to $10,000. $10,000 is a lot of money and opens a large number of new possibilities for us. The first possibility being a used truck for around $6,500. Some of you might be wondering, why would I pick a used pickup truck? The first reason is clearance. When the world falls apart and roads are left with abandoned vehicles on them, off-roading becomes a desired attribute in any car. Trucks navigate the rugged terrain better than any other type of vehicle. The other helpful part of a truck's clearance is a bit nasty to say out loud, but I'm gonna say it, trucks, they run over people better. And when the world is full of undead people, it's the best choice. There's gonna be times when the roads aren't clear of zombies and the only option is putting on your seatbelt and slamming the accelerator. And to fuel your zombie bulldozing truck, you'll want a full 6-gallon gas can, which can cost $30 by itself. Plus fuel, which averages $3.25 a gallon across the US at the moment, that adds an extra $19.50. We're gonna take 6 of those, meaning the final cost is $49.50 times 6, equaling $297. This gives us a bit more time with the truck before fuel becomes a problem. Now, what happens when the truck runs out of gas completely? That's what a gas siphon is for. This small $10 kit can help pull gasoline from older vehicles that you may find abandoned on the road. Newer vehicles have a few stoppers, making siphoning nearly impossible, but older vehicles are the sweet spot as they won't have them. Our next purchase at around $1,000 is a shotgun. Shotguns are zombie stoppers up close, with a wide blast, massive impact, and zero room for error when the undead get close. These things will shred and are great for dealing with zombie hordes, which is when zombies are most dangerous. Shotgun shells also cost around $90 and are perfect because they fit the budget. The following best item to purchase is an authentic, high-quality axe. This axe is great for chopping wood and chopping zombies. The next important component of survival we need to address is food. Out of the many solutions we could have for food, the one I want to direct your attention toward is MREs. MREs, also known as meals ready to eat, are self-contained food packs designed to provide complete nutrition without the need for cooking. These packs contain full meals, including an entree, sides, snacks, and often a flameless heater, making them perfect for survival situations or eating on the move. In a zombie apocalypse where everything's crumbled, MREs would be great for a short portion of time after the outbreak. Here, survivors are just starting to figure out how to survive in a world with zombies, when the established infrastructure for food, shelter, and water have been destroyed. That's why I think a small stash of MREs would be helpful, and it would only cost around $125. Some other survival necessities would be fire starting kits for $30, because let's be honest, we're not all Boy Scouts, and next, a crowbar to break into locked and boarded up places, also costing around $30. High quality binoculars so we can scout areas ahead and avoid danger, which typically cost around $50. And the final necessity, at least in my eyes, is a high quality pair of boots. The reason I picked boots was A, they're tough and sturdy, which is why survivors wearing them can traverse through different types of terrains and weather conditions. B, boots don't allow for as much ankle flexion, reducing the risk of an ankle sprain. And finally C, a kick from a boot is powerful, meaning it can deal more damage to the pesky undead. After these essentials, the gear becomes more about what fits you and your survival style. For $1,000, you could afford a gas generator, and if you're a survivor located in a more remote area where there are fewer zombies and noise isn't that much of a problem, you could make good use of that extra power. Or perhaps you want to travel and traverse the open wilds, not calling any specific place your home. So you might want a high-quality fishing setup, allowing you to enjoy the local lake's wildlife for food, along with a top-tier camping setup, ensuring you have a proper place to sleep and cook your food. Those 3 items could cost you up to $1,000 depending on the camping gear you want. The spending heavily relies on what you value. If it's clean water and food, you might spend $90 on a portable water purifier and more money on MREs. Or perhaps you want to enjoy the apocalypse. If so, you might buy an offline gaming console like a DS or 3DS, which doesn't require an internet connection at all. The only issue here is the price, so expect to drop up to $500 if you're going all in on the system and games. So you're gonna have to cut some of the survival necessities to make room for entertainment. But now it's time for $100,000, and oh boy, things get fun. Because now we get the opportunity to buy property. Obviously, $100,000 doesn't get you anything comfortable or pleasant. Still, it could afford you a remote cabin or house in the rural areas of the United States at around $80,000. And as mentioned earlier, the further you are from major cities, the better. And to pair with that house, you could afford a better gas generator for around $1,200. That could keep things like water filtration systems, lights, HVAC, and more running. One of the necessities I mentioned earlier is a high-end water filter, which costs, on average, around $400, whether it be for one unit or multiple units, as they do degrade over time. The next purchase would be a used truck at around $12,500. For all the same reasons I mentioned earlier, trucks are just the best vehicle type for the zombie apocalypse. And of course, we'll need fuel, which is why we're dropping a little over $200 on extra gas cans to make sure the truck can get wherever it needs to go and back. The following important category we have to address is weapons. With a larger budget like $100,000, there are so many things to choose from, but I eventually settled on a hunting rifle. A good hunting rifle paired with a decent scope will allow survivors to take on big game like deer, elk, and moose, and handle threats like zombies. Furthermore, when it comes to price, a decent rifle can be purchased for around $1,000, with an extra $100 going towards ammo. And pairing with that, we could get an expensive $150 knife set with a sharpener that could be used to cut apart any animals we hunt or zombies we attack. And while we're on the topic of hunting, let's improve our kit. We could buy some $250 worth of bear traps to set around the camp to catch any intruders or wild game that could be our next meal. And in accordance with our budget, we could afford about 5 of them, totaling $1,250. Our next hunting purchase could be a high quality hunting kit with a specialized tent, ghillie suit, and more, all designed to increase a survivor's chance of finding some food. The most accurate estimate I could find for all this was around $1,250, and it covered all the essentials. Now, while we've best equipped ourselves for hunting in a post-apocalyptic world, there's the reality that we might catch nothing. For that reason, I'd spend a little over $750 in MREs to ensure there's food to eat. Concerning what we spend the rest of the money on, it's once again up to personal interpretation. Personally, I'd invest in a high-quality $300 sleeping bag, which might seem pricey, but the top tier ones keep you cool in the heat and warm in the cold, making it well worth the cost. Next up, I want a fancy grill. A nice outdoor cooking set with tons of prepackaged seasonings to ensure that whatever I catch doesn't taste awful. That with some fuel stored up to make sure that I'm set for a while to keep on cooking to my heart's desire. For this, I came up with a price of around $750, which includes the camp cooking set, fuel, and more to make sure I'm eating good. Do you know what could possibly be better than this $100,000 setup? The answer? $1 million. What am I buying first with $1 million? 3 acres of land in rural Arkansas for $45,000. What am I building on these 3 acres of land? A complete 1,100 square foot underground bunker with a company named Atlas Survival Shelters, who specializes in the design and construction of high-end underground shelters. Now, if you're wondering why I chose 1,100 square feet specifically, it's because the average apartment is actually smaller at around 1,000 square feet. That extra space gives us enough room to turn it into a comfortable, livable home. Of course, some of you might want to go even bigger underground, which sounds awesome, but just keep in mind, it's gonna get really expensive. Atlas charges around $450 per square foot, meaning that 1,100 square foot underground space will cost a minimum of $495,000, which will eat up a large portion of the million. Fortunately, the price includes water filtration tanks, power generators, escape tunnels, and more to ensure that customers have the best chance of survival, which is exactly what we want. The next step is furnishing this underground bunker with a bed, couch, possibly some chairs, and a kitchen to make sure we're living in semi-comfort. That will cost around $15,000 according to my calculations. But now, let's start worrying about what we're going to set up above ground. Firstly, we need to build a fence surrounding our bunker and land to ensure that roaming zombies and survivors don't wander onto our property. To best ensure that, I chose a wooden fence because it completely blocks the line of sight for anyone outside. Now, the price of building a wooden fence is high, and it gets even higher when you consider that it would be around a 3-acre area, and the fence would have to be built with the toughest materials possible. For those reasons, we're setting aside $100,000 to ensure the job gets done. Moving our focus to what's inside the fence, we're going to set up 2 large metal garages for around $32,000. These garages are going to be key to protecting our supplies from nature and any prying eyes that might peek over the fence. We will also drop an extra $25,000 on furnishing these things. We're talking farm tools, workbenches, insulation, generators, and more to make sure these garages are the perfect place to work out of in the apocalypse. This also means we can store valuable resources like fuel in these garages. Some of these post-apocalyptic bunkers use generators that run on propane. Lucky for us, propane is a fuel source that is easy to store and doesn't degrade quickly like gasoline or diesel. So if we're thinking about stocking up on propane, like buying around 100 20-gallon tanks, it would cost around $180 for the tank, which alone adds up to $18,000. And to actually fill them, each tank holds 20 gallons, and with propane sitting at around $4.72 per gallon, fuel would cost $9,000 $15,440. So when it's all said and done, tank plus fuel, we're looking at a total of $27,440. Now that fuel is settled, let's find our post-apocalyptic ride. This was a tough purchase to make because of the many factors involved. The first and most important is how difficult it will be to find and store fuel safely in an apocalypse. As mentioned earlier, diesel and gasoline can lose their ability to burn efficiently due to natural processes like oxidation and evaporation. Following that line of logic, I decided it would be best to purchase a premium electric vehicle like the Ford F-150 Lightning for $87,000. Now, I can already hear some of you yelling at me through the screen, but hear me out. Electric vehicles are silent, while gas and diesel-powered vehicles make the usual combustion noises that could attract unwanted attention. We could also charge the Ford Lightning off of the generators we're storing the propane for. Additionally, EVs like the Ford Lightning also act as a portable generator if you're forced to set up camp anywhere on the road. And if you're wondering about some of the fair critiques of EVs, such as limited range and reduced effectiveness in the winter, remember that we're spending this $1 million trying to build an area that we don't have to leave. So when I spend $45,000 building a small solar panel array and another $60,000 to build a small self-sustaining farm, it's to minimize the amount of time we as survivors spend outside our safe zone. It's expensive and requires a lot of upkeep, but it's all in an effort to keep us alive. And to those wondering what makes up the large $65,000 garden purchase, it includes greenhouses, raised beds, soil, irrigation systems, chicken coops, and more to ensure that we will have something to eat. That's why it would be smart to spend another $15,000 drilling a deep, high-quality well to ensure that both our crops and ourselves stay hydrated. In a collapsing society, being able to produce your own consistent supply of drinking water is far more valuable than relying on scavenging. And just in case the farm and the well aren't doing their job or producing as expected, $12,500 will go to buying 100 MRE stashes to ensure we have something to eat. Now, with the boring details out of the way, it's time to talk weapons. Just like in our previous budgets, we're allocating funds for firearms, because in a zombie apocalypse, the more firepower, the better. So we're starting with 3 reliable sidearms, whichever you prefer, but on average, they go for about $1,000 each, including plenty of ammo. Next up is a shotgun, which costs us around $1,100, including ammo. Our third purchase is something with a bit more power and is directly tied to taking down zombies, and that's an AR-15. This semi-automatic rifle is lightweight, has a fast follow-up shot, and is customizable to the user's desire, making it the perfect weapon against zombies should they become a problem at range. The cost of a high-end AR-15 with premium modifications is around $2,000, and with extra ammunition, it increases the total price to $2,400. But the AR-15 isn't the only rifle we're buying, as a designated hunting rifle made by brands like Ruger, Weatherby, and Remington is a perfect addition to the arsenal to take down any wild game we come across. Aside from firearms, some tools and melee weapons we're going to buy include an $800 high-powered electric chainsaw, a $150 fire axe, a $400 premium machete, and a $1,000 knife set that covers all the bases of what you'll need a knife for. So with all this gear, we're set to shoot, chop, saw, and fillet anything we encounter in our quest for survival. But what about the other money I haven't spent? If you are keeping track, you'll notice I haven't spent $1 million. The reason for that is entirely up to you. Some of you watching may want to spend some of that money on more land, a larger bunker, a more expensive vehicle. Whatever you desire, the extra $20,000 is left specifically for you. But with the $1 million now handled, we're adding a zero and spending $10 million. And one of the most significant changes I noticed with this amount of money is that you now have backup plans. For example, some places will let you buy a fully furnished living space in a self-sustaining underground complex for $3 million. These spaces are identical to homes and apartments above ground, with enough food stored to last a minimum of 5 years. So if you were someone looking to spend $10 million to secure your future through a zombie apocalypse, you may purchase an underground spot like this and then have a location with a similar build to the $1 million budget waiting for you. You could even pay someone an annual salary of $90,000 to $100,000 annually for decades to keep the place running and in good shape until you need it. So, does that mean money is the solution to all your problems? Yes, at least when it comes to surviving a zombie apocalypse.